The wind cut through the training field like a blade, carrying the sound of laughter that didn't belong. "Look at him," one of the young employees snickered. "The janitor thinks he can shoot." Cameras were already rolling, phones pointed at a man in his late 30s, worn-out shoes, a faded hoodie, and a quiet gaze that revealed more miles than years. His daughter, Lily, stood beside him, clutching a small teddy bear, whispering softly, "It's okay, Daddy. You don't have to prove anything." But he smiled, gentle, calm. "Sometimes, sweetheart," he said, reaching for the bow on the ground, "you don't prove them wrong, you just remind them who you are." The laughter grew louder as he stepped onto the line. The field belonged to Hawkeye Industries, a global sports tech company, and today was their annual Employee Challenge, an event where even the janitorial staff could have fun for the cameras. What they didn't know was that this janitor was James Hale, a single dad and decorated veteran, once a national archery champion before war, loss, and fatherhood had stripped everything away except the will to keep going. When he raised the bow, his hands didn't shake, they remembered. Every muscle in his arms, every breath, aligned with a precision born not of training, but of survival. The employees stopped laughing for a moment, unsure why the air suddenly felt heavier. The arrow left the string, slicing through silence. Thwack! Dead center. Murmurs broke out. Someone said it must be luck. He didn't flinch. He knocked another arrow. Then another. 10 in a row, each one perfect. The crowd fell silent. Only Lily clapped, eyes bright with pride. At that moment, a voice behind them cut through the quiet. "Who is he?" The crowd parted as Evelyn Cross, the CEO herself, stepped forward. Sharp suit, composed presence, but her eyes, wide, curious, betrayed her surprise. "That's just the janitor," one of the employees muttered. Evelyn walked closer, studying the bow in his hands like it held a story she wanted to read. "You were military, weren't you?" she asked softly. James nodded. "Long time ago. Just doing what I can now to provide for her." The little girl hid behind him, and Evelyn smiled warmly. "Seems like you're doing a lot more than that." What happened next became the most replayed moment on the company's social feed. She asked him to join the company's upcoming charity tournament, a high-profile archery event filled with world-class athletes. Everyone thought she was joking. James declined politely at first, he didn't like attention. But when Lily tugged at his sleeve and whispered, "You could win again, Daddy," something inside him shifted. That night, in their small apartment, he pulled out a dusty case from under the bed. Inside lay his old bow, scratched, worn, and sacred. Lily helped him clean it, giggling as she tried to pull the string and nearly fell over. They practiced in the dark, under streetlights, with soda bottles as targets. A week later, James walked into the arena. Cameras flashed, spectators whispered, and his name appeared on the board, James Hale, civilian participant. His competitors were Olympic-level shooters, sponsored professionals, but when he stepped to the line, silence followed again. Evelyn watched from the front row, unable to explain why her heart raced as he drew the bowstring. Maybe it was his focus. Maybe it was how he carried years of pain with quiet dignity. Or maybe it was how he made something as mechanical as shooting an arrow feel like poetry. Every shot struck true. Every movement told a story of endurance, fatherhood, and quiet strength. The crowd rose to their feet as the final arrow split the previous one, Robin Hood shot. The announcer could barely speak over the roar. James had just shattered the event record. Reporters swarmed him, asking how it felt to come out of nowhere and win. But he didn't talk about glory or revenge. He looked at Lily and said, "It's not about where you are now, it's about what you don't give up on." She reminded me of that. Evelyn approached him after the ceremony, the medal still hanging from his neck. "You know," she said, "our company could use someone like you. Not just for PR, for leadership." He laughed softly. "I clean floors. I don't lead teams." "Maybe you just haven't been given the right floor," she replied, smiling. "We'll fix that." That moment went viral, an image of a veteran, a father, and a CEO standing together under stadium lights, the caption reading, "Everyone laughed until he took the shot." Months later, James was no longer sweeping halls. He was head of the company's Veterans Initiative program, helping hundreds of ex-soldiers find purpose again. Evelyn and Lily became close friends, almost like family. And sometimes, on weekends, he still shot arrows with her by his side, both laughing under the same sky where once, the world had doubted him. If you've ever been laughed at, underestimated, or made to feel small, remember James. Because no matter who you are or what you've lost, your moment can come again.